In Christ alone, my hope is found. He is my light, my strength, my song. This cornerstone, this solid ground, firm through the fiercest drought and storm. What heights of love, what depths of
I've been washed in the fountain, cleansed by His blood. Join heirs with Jesus as we travel this side, for I'm part of the family of God.
Well, a very warm and special welcome. Happy Sabbath, one and all. This is the Loud Cry Surge. Live the experience. It's just about 7:52 right here in Trinidad and Tobago. I know that we are really behind time, but for those of you who would have stayed on, you're going to be tremendously blessed. So welcome. We had a quick fire week. It just flew past as though we were just standing still, but time has gone. 7 days have gone, and we are back again together in studio live in our set, because we have a very special and powerful program. So just go and tell your neighbor, your friend on your platforms. Tell them that the Loud Cry Surge, they haven't gone anywhere. We are still here, and we are going to be having a wonderful program, family time, in this wrap-up program that we call the Gathering of the Families Overview. So I want to, as usual, remind you of our programs in the week. On Tuesdays we have with me Flashpoint at 7 p.m. on all the networks, all the platforms rather. On Wednesdays with Pastor Kern Charles, Book of the Month, very interesting. I saw some good reviews this week, some good looks at that presentation, looking at Christ's object lessons. And on Thursdays with Sister Anila, our health feature. And you can find us on our varied platforms. You can write us at our Gmail address. We should be putting it up on the screen in a little while, but anywhere we are everywhere. You just have to go in our archives on Facebook, on YouTube, archived videos. As you see on the screen there, everything there for you, Loud Cry Surge. Twitter, Periscope, our Gmail address, so much. You cannot afford to miss us. So tonight we have, as I said, a special program, and we are going to do an overview. We can never stop speaking about family. Family is extensive, it is broad, and with the whole changing complexity of families, we have to keep always on the cutting edge. But we have gone so far, and tonight we have two special people. One more special than the next, and I'm going to introduce you to them right now, just before we take the break and go into our program. We are looking back at the presentations on the family. We did about 7 or 8. It's too many to count. But we have Elder Kern, Pastor Kern, who is no stranger. He has his own set on Wednesday nights. And that's sister, wife, woman sitting next to him. You can make a guess, but it has to be something to be sitting so close. So welcome Pastor Kern and Sister Onella to the Loud Cry Surge.
Happy to be here. Happy Sabbath to everyone.
Right. And we know that from the word go, we will start getting the ball rolling, and we just want people to know that we are here. But let me just ask ask you a question before we go in. Sister Onella is from Truth for Today Ministries. She is there with her husband at Truth for Today Ministries, and she has her own blog and Facebook page, and it's Health and Salvation.
Well, that is the evangelistic aspect, is health and salvation.
Okay, so you have, oh boy, well, this is a long program. This is going to be long. I thought I covered it there. No. So stay with us. We are coming back in a short. Pastor Kern, it's good to have you as usual on set.
It's always a pleasure to be here. I love this work.
Yes, praise God, and you always bring a special flavor when you come, and this time no exception. So my dear people, stay with us. We're going to take a short break. We're going to come back, look back at the family months that we even have had, talk to our brethren in a very simple sit around, and the only assurance that I have now is that God is good, and another one that you're going to enjoy yourself tonight. So stay with us. We're going to be right back in 2 minutes. Welcome back to the Loud Cry Surge. Again, I'm Pastor Roger Kisto, and tonight, I have two special guests from one of our sister ministries, Truth for Today Ministries, Pastor Kern Charles, who is no, as I said before, stranger to the set. He does his own show on Wednesday evenings, but he has brought along with him his lovely wife, Sister Onella Charles, and because they are a young family, we have a lot of things to talk about, because in my series on the family, I looked at different things, questions to ask before you get married, the sacredness of the marriage bed, should we have children, and all these things. So I think they're in a good position to answer that. But just before we break, I was asking Sister Onella, and I call her Nella as well, about her ministry. I think I'm going to talk to that, put you out there a little bit. I know, as you mentioned, that the evangelistic arm is Health and Salvation. Wow. And then there is the Nella K, Reasonable Service. So just tell us briefly, tell our people out there all over the world, just briefly, and then we will start to speak concerning the family.
Well, basically speaking to the truth that we all believe, that God's church is universal, and each ministry has their strong suit. And Health and Salvation is basically just the evangelistic arm of our neck of the woods, which is in East Trinidad, where we seek to educate people on making the necessary lifestyle changes that will equip us to be able to function efficiently in these last days as we believe. So Health and Salvation, it basically features the cooking classes that the church has regularly. It features all our health presentations and some of the short character building programs that we host regularly in order to educate the brethren so that we could be fitted to share with others. Yes.
All right, praise God. I like that. And I too have participated, at least sat under your tutelage, if I should say so. And let me just put in a plug here at the same time.
What a whirlwind that is, because I sat below you so many years.
I know this young lady from ever since.
I think a wee little girl.
Yes, and now she's grown, she's married, has her own family, very, very responsible and taking charge of things. So Elder Kern, we want to get into this thing about family. Let me ask you, and we are just sharing tonight. It's very simple, just relax. Just feel free to share. We want our audiences to know that we are here to even facilitate your thoughts and questions. But in a changing dynamic world where even Christianity is seemed to be irrelevant, we are living in a postmodern era. It is called the post-Christian era. How important, now that you are married as well, how important is family? Because the thing is, we have heard us talk about family. Every church has a family program. The governments of the world are interested in family. You have UNESCO talking about education and family. But with regard to in this changing time, where so many things are drawing upon individuals and stakeholders in family, how important is family at this time?
Well, Elder Kisto, it will take me some time to really get around answering that, but I'll try to condense it as best as I possibly can. Because whenever I hear the word family, a lot comes to mind. A lot. Because the real design of family from a biblical perspective, if we should understand that as God designed that the family should operate and function, and its whole role in society, we would have to consider carefully if we should really get into families. That is, a family should start really by man and woman. And when they are joined together, you have offspring. And like you asked, in this changing, very dynamic world, family is critically important.
Amen.
One cannot overthink or overpray when it comes to a serious matter as in forming a family and even keeping a family together. Because for instance, like you have children. I don't as yet. And in this very in this very changing, I'm saying as yet because there are relations that take place in family. You must expect the obvious as you become more and more involved.
All right.
So that is why it is as yet. So
we'll talk to that.
On that note, dealing with children and what have you, Satan is really plunging a very serious attack on the family, because you see, what the society get is what we rear up. And that's also what the church gets. And to keep a family together, or to even get involved in the forming of a family, you cannot afford to make mistakes with that. It is a mistake if you enter upon it ill-advised or ignorantly, that can really cause your ruin. You can miss out on the kingdom.
So you can have people co-joined, have the same goals and aspirations in terms of everything, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's a family, because
that's
family
correct.
means something different.
That's correct.
People
That's
can
correct.
be mated but not matched.
And not matched. Perfect
Yes,
statement.
the whole idea of family is it is deeper, far deeper than just two people coming together, because we have to get into the whole idea of the role of the family. What is the design, the original design of the family?
God's purpose.
Yes.
For the family.
You know, I like, as you're on that point there, one friend told me, or asked me rather, if I have children as yet, and I responded, no. And they said, what do you think? You came here to turn stone? And, and I just laughed because, you know, from that response, I recognized that particular friend of mine really did not understand the purpose of
the family. So, you know, as I said, we have so many things to discuss, but I want to come to Sister Unella, because being a female, one of the presentations that I did was gathering the families before the day of wrath, and I looked at the situation with Lot and Mrs. Lot. Mrs. Lot lost 2 of her girls in that deluge, and she was one of those women that wanted to progress, a progressive woman. So therefore she bought into Sodom. She had her lot, no pun intended, her lot was stuck there in Sodom, so much so that it was hard for her to leave. And we know the story, how it went. Again, in this postmodern world where women are on par with the men educationally and skill set wise and so on, do you think that there is still room for the primitive minded woman? Primitive, I mean holding biblical principles in this super ultra modern dynamic changing world?
That's a good question. Given the times that we are living in, long ago there was a time when distinct by wearing no jewelry, having their natural hair, and now going natural seems to be a trend. You know, it rose out of the whole Rasta City nation, that whole society, and then it rose out of the concept of this false sense of nobility the world is striving on, where they believe that if they portray a sense of humility, people will perceive them as humble. So now, not even having natural hair is even a popular thing to distinguish us. So therefore there must be something that will distinguish the woman of God, the wife of God today, from every other casual woman in the world. And along that line, I just want to share relative to the family. Many people fear marriage, a lot of people. And I often tell them the reason why they fear it is because they don't understand it, because marriage is really a privilege. Marriage is an opportunity to actually see the glory of God revealed in the home. And then we have that to share to the world. So I believe, yes, it is possible for today, women of God, those Hadassahs, those, how to say, Miriams, those Ruth, we can stand distinctive even when we are in the marriage union. Because as the servant of the Lord tells us, is that when we join ourselves in the marriage covenant, we are still individuals. We remain distinctive because we each have our responsibilities to bear. And men having the position of being the priest of the home, the house, the band, you know, I heard it a few times in some of your family presentations. Their role is very distinct. Our role is very important, because without a firm structure, without a good sturdy support, no matter how fierce a pillar might be, it could come crumbling down. And you know, so our responsibility today is just as crucial as in the Garden of Eden. Eve was taken from Adam's side, and it is because she wandered from his side, trouble came. We're not going to play the blame game. Basically identifying the facts, and the facts is this, Brother Kisto, I believe it is possible for women to stand distinct in their Christianity and not even lose a sense of that while being married, because we have an awesome responsibility.
Praise
and
God.
You know, there's
Praise
a lot
God.
to be done.
Praise the Lord. And you know, this sends me now to that question, that thought that was coming out. One of the presentations that we did, and by the way, viewers, we are doing an overview step by step, and I think the steps are really escalating. Escalating, not descending. Now, what about the children? What about the children? Not a question to you per se, but in that presentation I showed rather that having children is a very, very, very serious responsibility. It is not just because, you know, there is a notion going around, your young people just got married, as Elder Kern said, what about the children. But there are considerations, for example, their health. Who will take charge of their health? Am I going to put them in the hand of a nanny, a caretaker, a granny, and so on? Am I going to homeschool these children? Would I have a child at age 20 who could, like Abraham's son Isaac, be willing to be sacrificed, and at 40 willing to take the counsel to say, well, look, son, this is the woman for you. So in that context, and being young yourself and childless in the context of you have your plan, what consideration, probably I missed out, what other considerations should be brought to bear? And take into consideration as well, there was an example that I showed in Inspiration, that this couple, very, very good missionaries, and because they, this is a hard thing to say, they went ahead and have children. The servant of the Lord said, you know, it was selfish. It injured the cause.
Because they had a work to do.
They had a work to do. So the pros and cons of children, what are your thoughts? Anyone can go first.
Well, Elder Kisto, you know, that may sound a little bit jovial as we speak about it, given the fact that we do not have children as yet. And we are always singled out, you know, in the crowd, because here we have a young couple and, you know, no children. And people are asking, when? But let me say this on the record. Having a child or children is actually bringing another mind in the world. A mind that must be trained, a mind that, you know, can develop and expand, and it's a whole independent entity, a child. And the thing is, Elder, that is a terrible responsibility that you cannot just go rushing in. For instance, let me put my family on the line here. Myself and my wife, we are extremely busy in ministry. Extremely. And I am not totally sure, and we have discussed this. So whatever I say, Sister Nella has my back. I am not sure as yet if God is leading us in that direction. Because
I just want to jump in there. Right. I'm going to jump in, Brother Kisto, because you know, putting us together on this show, it calls for that. He likes me when I do that. The whole concept of children, the aspect of children in marriage life and family. The general trend is you get married and 1 year later, here comes the baby.
Right.
We don't get married to have children. If in our marriage we have a child, by God's grace, I believe that the same way it happens is the same way you can avoid it. I know the servant of the Lord says that woe to those who give suck in the last days. And that is not to say that those who have children are committing some crime.
Right. No,
because there are a lot of faithful, honest people
Yes.
who, based on their ministry, believe that we are nearing the end of time, so therefore to bring children into the mix is not necessary. And sometimes time goes by and it happens. So children are a blessing no matter what. They are gifts from God lent to us to rear up for His kingdom and to be given back to Him.
Yes.
Right? As for us specifically, before you get married, you are supposed to know what your married life could produce.
That's right.
You look at the person's life, you look at their parents, you look at their experience, you look at the sphere that they operate in, and you ask yourself, how will this union bring me one step closer to heaven? A lot of people laugh at that and they say, no, we don't do that, but I do that. I'm a critical, cross every T, dot every I, and I lined up my life and I loved my husband before I even met him. Because I knew what I wanted for my life. So therefore, when it showed up, I was like, oh, God knows. Because nobody else didn't. And for him, when he started to get that cuddly feeling, I bought him a puppy. We have a 6-week-old puppy, and her name is Midnight. And that is going to keep him. Because, as we said, there are some people who have a specific mission. And when God calls you to a mission, you must know. Some people leave their homes, they go in the cold, they go in the dirt, they go far countries because they believe God has called them for a specific purpose. And that is the same sort of mindset we ought to keep in mind when we think about marriage, when we think about family. If it is you do not see a child as being a part of the work you are trying to accomplish, be it you want to have a missionary school, because some parents are unable to homeschool their children, but you have the skills to deal with young children, so you might in the ministry be the one to rear up the children. So therefore there are a lot of variables and there are a lot of distinctive things, because no two families will ever function the same.
And added to that too, Elakisto, this is very dynamic. There are some more factors that must be taken into consideration. Now, age is a very serious factor, because as you grow older, you get weaker physically. No man could deny that, even though we might be still looking strong and we might be able to do certain things. The reality is that our faculties, they decline with age. And I know that if we do not have children while we are in the buoyancy of our youth and what have you, having children when we are, you know, might not be a
careful now.
might not be the best thing to do, because you, in the production of a child, you are passing on things that is supposed to nourish that child. And in many cases, there are many examples where older folks, older married couples, they actually impart ill health to their children because the thing is too long gone. Too long gone. Now, this is not to say that God doesn't work miracles still, because we have many examples in the Bible. Lot was already, in fact, Abraham's story was already past his stage. But these cases must not be used as the platform to actually push forward, you know, at any stage, No. It is not like that. You see, Abraham had a mission. God had called him for a specific purpose. And in the bringing forth of that child, it was in the fulfillment of a mighty promise. And therefore, we must really check our family status closely, know what we want and what God expects of us, because family, it has pleasure in it, yes, but that is not the main aim of the family. The main aim of the family is really to bring glory to the earth, glorify God. It's actually to repopulate heaven. And therefore, we have to really candidly look at this issue carefully. We are not saying that having children is a bad thing. I'm saying that one must check with God before engaging in certain activities that might really, you know, bring the cause of God to delay or really further its design.
And you know, on that note, Pastor, Hannah prayed for a son. I have been praying to not have since even before we got married, because we had this discussion prior to our marriage during the engagement period. I asked him, he asked me, and thank God we were on the same page, because
we were well met.
We knew. You see, with it leaves less time for the rearing up, and I feel I have a sister who's 4 years old. Yes, my mother had another child. At 4 years old, I look at my sister, and oftentimes some people think she's mine, but I look at that and I am so afraid, so scared, because when you hear what goes on in these primary schools, these secondary schools, we know we've been called as a people to Christian education, but it's not, how to put it, it's not something that we have in Trinidad per se, where we have a fully functioning institution where our children can be completely reared for service. So therefore, as you brought families straight into the sanctuary, it tells us exactly what should be our mindset in the inception. Where do you see your life as it pertains to where God has called you? And when you answer those questions, then you would know where children can be placed. Because it's not a haphazard thing. It's not something you just, it happens and oh, I'll go. it's a ministry when you have children.
Yes, yeah.
And,
That's right.
and I really have a lot of respect for mothers.
Yeah,
I have a lot of respect for them.
And you know, this is a topic that could really go off the
Yes,
charts
it
because
Yeah.
there are so many different ideas and variables where that is concerned. You may put your position forward, but I respect it because it is a fact. We are living at this time when our heart should be where ministry is. I want to just move on quickly before we take the break. Looking at this idea, I did one of the presentations entitled "Singleness, is it a valid status?" Singleness.
Yes, I remember that
Yes,
presentation.
you know, and why I did it is because singles feel marginalized because people think, you know, the biological clock is ticking. All your friends are getting married. There are so many possibilities. Yes, you know, especially within the Christian realm, I feel for the single woman because she feels as though when they're having any grouping is the couples or the married people, and that seems to be the trend and the buzz. Paul even said, I'm quoting from the Phillips version, he says, "I give the advice above more as a concession than a command. I wish that all men were like myself." But I realize that everyone has his own particular gift from God, and he goes on. So some have made a doctrine of this. So is singleness, is it a valid status to be single still?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
No, somebody might say, you can say so now because you're married.
No, when I was single, I determined that I would be that way. When I decided to get married, I decided that that is what I wanted. And if I decided that that is not what I wanted, it would not have happened. And that is how we should look at our life choices as it relates to family. The world is going with natural hair, so all of a sudden Christian women don't think it's valuable. The world is going with this, the world is going with that. When will we reach a stage in our experience where we realize that we should be the front runners? We should be the ones setting the trends, as they would say. And a family is not a destination, because we know Christ had a mission and he fulfilled it as a single person. Paul said he wished that some would abide as he did, but he was not making that a doctrine. He was not making that a standard. The point is this: castle building, sentimentalism, these things are deep-seated in each and every one of us. It's incorporated, it's placed in us through Disney, through the media, through everything. People have that longing. They watch at a family and, oh, that looks so lovely. And I would say, if you only knew. And we say these things in retrospect, but even before, there are a lot of people who are advocates right now and they are single. You know, those two young men who you brought for the family segment in Trinidad and Tobago, Last Ray Ministries and Distinction Ministries, those young men, I saw them and I said, look at this thing. Look at these young people. I mean, I know all the ladies were itching to find out if they were single. But here are these two young men, eligible in the cause of Christ, but determined to accomplish their mission. And then if God sees it fit to place them in the family unit, they are willing. So as I said earlier on when I said that I loved my husband before I met him, that is how men and women should value their individuality. Because it's not that we lose it, but you do lose a certain measure of freedom.
Yeah.
And let us plead with each and every one of you, don't give it up just yet.
So, yes, singleness is definitely a valid status. Let's note that before any of us got married, we were single. We were single, and for me, it was a valid status. In fact, if it were not a valid status, then you wouldn't be able to get married.
We're not looking at it from that literal sense, but it is about the concept of choosing to be that way.
Because that life of singleness is where you really need to develop and really get your ducks in a row that will prepare you for the next step. And sometimes, Elder Kisto, the next step is not always marriage. Because, you know, there are some men, some women who might be more effective in the cause of God if they abide alone. If they abide alone. In fact, the Bible tells us that a married man cares for the things of his wife.
Yeah.
And I am saying this cautiously. To some extent, you are really robbing God in that covenant relationship that is called marriage, because you cannot, in your zeal to really carry on God's cause, neglect your wife. So you have to at times attend to that. And in that sense, I use the term robbery. So that we must understand that those who are single, they should really value that time of singleness. That is the deciding time for them to see where they ought to go. So that's a really, I mean, I had my days when I, was really questioning, should I get married to this lady here? And,
Wouldn't leave me alone.
should I really, get myself involved in this or what have you?
Yeah.
And mind you, I am not even ashamed to say that besides Sister Ornella, there might have been other prospects, but I really had that time where I would spend with God to really work things out. And mind you, let me say this, I think I have made the best decision in terms of choosing Nella for a life partner.
Smile, Nella.
In fact, I only know so many people at Lakisto. God has the entire world to choose from. Had it not been for prayer and really committing myself for God, I would have made a blunder of this. And here it is, I am proving. The fact is, it's very evident that Nella has, she is my
She has passed the
because,
test.
yes, she has.
I don't like the other half concept, but on that note, Pastor, I just want to add sort of an encouragement, because there's this example of a friend of mine's, a sister, who had the same passion as me in medical missionary work, lifestyle education, and got married. Everything was well and done, Some people cautioned her not to get married because of the mindset they saw brewing in her. And she paid it no mind and went ahead with the marriage. And for the sake of quote-unquote medical missionary work, she broke her marriage covenant. I would say you actually broke an entire family. Because here it is, you are pursuing medical missionary work at the expense of your marriage and have to go through a divorce and have to abide alone. I'm not using that person as an example, but I'm talking about to the point of singleness being valid and understanding who you are and what you have to accomplish. Because if you do not ask yourself these serious questions and you allow sentimentalism to drive your decisions, then you'd be like that person and every other person who has to live with a broken marriage, a broken family, and Satan just smiles.
A broken heart too.
He smiles at that. So the thing is, the reason why so many people, even before and after they're married, they caution people, is because you have to value your singleness, value your individuality, use it to the fullest capacity. Then, when God calls for you to unite, the sailing will be a little smooth, yet bumpy, but the experience will be very different, because, as Ellen White says, many of saints have made shipwreck of their lives because they didn't ask themselves these important questions. They were caught up in what we call the butterfly effect. It fades.
It gets sprayed away. We have to run for a break. We are really going nicely. And I think I want to share this because I would not give Onala an opportunity to respond to this. I remember before she got married, she came in this very private meeting with me in the office and grilled me on Elder Chris. We're going to take a break. Come right back. Come right back.
The first time I'm hearing that.
Well, I needed to find out some information.
Yes. So we're going to take a break, come right back. Don't go anywhere. Going to come back in 1 or 2 minutes. Going to listen to a song actually and come back. This is the Loud Cry Surge. This is the family, gathering the family. This is the overview of the presentation that went for the past 2 months. Stay with us.
seems the world has forgotten all about you. Children are crying and people are dying. They're lost without you, so lost without you. But you said if we seek, Lord, if we seek your face and turn from our wicked ways, you promised to heal, promised to heal our land. Father, you can. We need to hear from you. We need a word from you. For if we don't hear from you, what will we do? What will we do? Wanting you more. Lord, we want you more and more each day. Show us your perfect way. But there is no other way that we can live. We need to hear. We need to hear from you. Speak, Jesus. We need a word from you. For if we don't hear from you, Lord, tell me what will we do? We need you more and more each day. Show us your perfect way. For there is no other way that we can live. Hear me when I say, Lord, for there is no other way. We search and search. I can't find another way. There is no other way that we can live. Speak to us, Lord. We need to hear from you, Jesus. For there is no other way. We tried and tried and tried and prayed. We can't find another way. No, 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 there is no other way that we can
Welcome back to the Loud Cry Surge. You are hearing this special overview looking back at the presentation of the family. Not an exhaustive sit around by no stretch of the imagination. You could never exhaust this. This is huge. But I have two special people here with me, good friends, good associates in ministry, husband and wife team. You can't get better than that. Two young people as well, full of energy. Elder Kern, who is no stranger, and his dear wife, Sister Onella Charles, right? Yeah, Onella Charles. All right, we're going to kick off this segment looking at this text. We're going to look at love and submission. These are commands that God gave after the whole sin issue. And I'm going to quote Colossians 3:18 and 19. It says, "Wives, Sister Onella, submit yourselves to your husband as is fitting in the Lord, and husbands, love your wives and do not be harsh with them." Now, this idea has gone through many turns, most times away from the truth. So you have the old guard system and customs in many countries where I have visited as well, a strong male dominance, and it is really a call, a demand for submission, because the husband is the head of the wife. Now, as young people, I know that this would have been rehearsed by you in terms of talking about it and so on. But again, now in a world that is changing, where wives are professionals, wives don't have time to stay home again, this idea of submission, people come to me for marriage counsel, and one of the provisos is, especially from the woman, that I don't believe in this submission thing. Yeah, what is the relevance of that now? Is that an old biblical story? Is there any relevance to it? Talk to us.
Well, you know, Elakisto, that, like you said, has really gone through a lot of, it has taken a lot of beating. And it's sad that the truth has been really, you know, twisted, and it has turned into what it really is not. And I can speak to my part because that's the part that I should really know best. My counsel is, husbands, love your wife. And I have, in my own little way, really discovered the beauty and harmony of that, because failure to do so, Elakisto, this might make us chuckle a little bit, you would be unhappy. you would be unhappy. And I think those who listening to the program would understand exactly what I mean. Husbands, that is, would understand what I mean. You would be a very unhappy customer at the end of the day. Now, that does not mean that you must compromise and allow your wife to do as she wants and what have you, and so on and so on. You see, love is the real keyword. And love is only love when it is really anchored in God. There is no other definition to love outside of God. No other definition. Therefore, my example actually comes from the love that God has for me. And it is from that platform I know how to love my wife. Even if I think my wife is wrong, I need to look at how God deals with me when I am wrong, and treat her the same, because that is the real definition of love. Love suffers long and is kind,
right,
and it goes the extra mile, and so on. So that really love really is the answer to the other part of the whole statement. That really brings the submission. It makes
so you're saying love precedes.
That's correct.
So the husband's love and the wife
that's
will naturally
correct.
submit.
That's correct.
Women
were designed in that way.
That's right.
They were designed to respond to love.
Oh no, let me hear that.
My way to help myself and others when that topic comes up, I always tell people that perception is not reality. There are some people who are content to thrive in a perception. The way they think they are perceived, they live in that little bubble. But perception is not reality, and eventually it will fade. When I hear submit, I have been contented to accept it as support. So because Satan, through the means of this world, the whole LGBT agenda, all these things about women equality and women just as men and all of these things, I always say if women were supposed to be men and vice versa, they would bear children and we would bring the provision. So when men seek to reverse God's order, they find themselves logging heads, because a woman could be assertive like me, and that doesn't mean that she cannot submit, because the way I've incorporated that into my life is by, instead of hearing submit or be subordinate or be underneath, I hear support. So wives, support your husbands, because what they have to do, you could make or break that. And I'm going to let nobody break my husband, I'm sorry.
Wow.
So therefore my immediate response is to seek to hold up anything that he is doing. If I see him rocking, I don't turn my back and feel shame. I get a spoke one time and I stick it to ensure that he stands, because when he stands, it's a representation of my family. There's no I in team. He's wearing my uniform. So God has placed him as the priest of the home. Who am I, finite man, to reverse that order? Women who celebrate this false sense of nobility, I always say, because people think there's humility and nobility in some of the folly that they believe in. Women should be side by side with a man and doing everything. As I said before, when you seek to reverse God's order, you put yourself in a strain, because women cannot do what men can do, and vice versa.
You know, Elder Kisto, just before we move on, there are some words that I've been hearing lately. Some words, some type of words being used primarily by women. This word comes to mind: chauvinistic. There is, you know, there is the view on the sister side that to do certain things on the request of a man, he is being chauvinistic, he's being traditional, you know, because women are, we cannot deny that women are really climbing the corporate ladder, and they are earning sometimes more than men. They are being educated more than men, and that's what we have in our society. And this really speaks to a changing world, changing but a dying world. And when the world is changing, mind you, in these last days, it's not changing for the good. So in that, all I can see is Satan seeking to reverse the whole thing. Mind you, Satan has interfered with God's plan. At least he has tried, because God's plan hasn't changed. It's still the same. And it's still a good plan, right? You see, by interfering with the marriage, Satan is really trying to interfere with our relationship with God. Because marriage and the Sabbath, they are twin institutions. Right. And so Satan seeks to get into the whole marriage thing so as to cut us off from that relationship with God, because that's the only commandment that really shows God, as creator, as sovereign, as the one altogether lovely. So we must be able to see Satan working through the fabric of the family, trying to disconnect us from God. So that when these terms are used, God have mercy, some people just don't understand that there's an enemy behind this whole thing, working with stratagem, trying to interfere with this holy institution. And in so doing, if he succeeds, he's going to really cut you off from God. Cut you off.
Wow. You know, I'm looking for a statement here that speaks to this idea of a wrong understanding of submission. A presentation that I did not get an opportunity to do is no visible wounds. Visible wounds. And we speak about yes.
Sounds interesting.
Yeah, you know, the idea of abuse, financial abuse, emotional abuse, and all the other type that I mean, it's not even exhaustive in my thinking. And the backdrop of it is the wrong understanding of submission. And then now in a
think it's a bad word.
They think it's you know, but and in a church environment now, you have the woman thinking you cannot take a brother to court. She understands submit to be whatever he doles out. There was one woman who said that she preferred to get blows than to be emotionally abused, because a blow could heal, a broken arm can be mended. But when it interferes with your mind, the abuse went so far as playing with your mind, making you believe that the man would keep shifting the game and making the woman feel as though you know. So I think the idea of submission and love, and but as young people, but I guess the answer is yes. Do you see it as still workable with you? In your marriage, love and submission. You said it before, but just you know, rehearse it for me.
Lakisto, these things that we are pulling from Scripture, they were given by God. And if I know God at all, God never gives something without hedging us in. This is to protect us from the wiles of the enemy. It is to shield us in. love and submission go hand in hand. They are indissolubly joined. You cannot break them apart.
Right.
Wherever there is love, there is submission. And that is quite simple to understand. If we would just check our relation, we are actually in a marriage relationship with the Lord. And if we would just check our relationship with the Lord, we will really understand love and submission. God has no problem at all loving us. We respond to that. We submit to that. And it's not because we are pressured into it. Submission actually is a sweet part of what is called love. So the wrong idea of submission that we have, or that is out there, into making that look like the woman is placed under constraints. She's restricted. She's losing her freedom. She's robbed of her individuality and what have you. These maxims that has been promulgated by intelligent people, by good Christians and traditional pastors and what have you, is really robbing the marriage covenant of the sweetness and joy that God designs that it should exist in that relationship. It's robbing us.
Submission, as I said, is not a bad word, and submission is like falling in line. My husband does mechanical work, and if you put the back brakes in front, or you take a bushing or from the front of a vehicle and put it to the back, what will happen? It's not going to function optimally. It's not going to function at all in some cases. So submission is God's means of putting us in place. You often say with the husband and the wife, God created us physically, mentally, morally, spiritually to fit into each other. So therefore, a wife's responsibility to submit to her husband is really to fall in line. Let your part function where it should, and his part function where it should, and the whole machine is going to function optimally to bear the fruit. So when people look at that, I see some wives do some things to their husbands, bring them down, and I feel so embarrassed. I'm saying to myself, don't they see that they're just breaking themselves down? And vice versa. When a husband finds himself in the company of other males and talks about a defect of his wife, he's embarrassing himself, and vice versa. So that is what God has so miraculously created in the marriage union, that when these two things are out of sync, it's seen evident in me. You can see if I'm disrupting him. You can see through him if he's disrupting me, because we are a representation of each other.
Praise God.
Wherever we are.
Praise God. Beautiful, beautiful. Well, folks, you are viewing an extra. It's really an extra. It's Loud Cry Surge as usual.
As usual. And it's too good to leave.
It's too good to leave. And the idea of family always boils interest, because at the end of the day, it's family that counts. You want to save your families. People leave miles and to get back to their families. Right. When they are separated just for a week, there's like years, you're on the phones every opportunity you get to speak, because that's what family is about. So we want you to send in your questions and your thoughts and your comments. We will deal with that after the next break, which is in a while. But we want to touch this last subject. One of my pet subjects, and you would know Nella, since 2007 has been marriage Sabbath
and the sanctuary.
Oh boy.
You know where that was, right?
Oh boy.
But
when I saw the resurgence, I said, Loud Cry Surge, here we go. Live the experience.
Yes. But the whole idea of what preceded that, and what I thought was more dynamic, the idea of the sexuality. God has created us really dynamically to respond to each other. And I think the last discussion on love and submission really speaks to the idea of human sexuality. But so in your counseling, I mean, there's so much to speak about in this area. But again, people are not getting married as much as before. Again, people are testing out the water before they get married. I showed in the presentation on human sexuality, there are, in our biochemistry, things bring us together, without even us knowing. Yes, we are there. And I kind of piggybacked on your presentation that you did with the love hormones and so on, that I was there the week before. So tell me about this. But I'm not sure if you have been separated long, if you have ever been separated like a week or a day.
A few days.
Just the thought of it.
So that is why he cannot leave me with a baby and go. I have to go too. But Elder Kisto, that thought that you have been so potently bringing out, I hope that people will be spiritually minded enough to not dwell on the... Because when people hear sex, they go crazy. And they miss the boat. So the whole concept of this physicality relative to marriage, relative to the sanctuary, relative to salvation, don't get too carried away on the physical aspect and draw the principles of union, draw the principles of connection. As I said, I believe biologically human beings not only transfer genes, but they also transfer tendencies. So the same way parents, through pregnancy, through 23 chromosomes coming from either parties to create that zygote before it becomes an embryo and it sits comfortably on the uterus, it's a genetic network. So therefore characteristics or tendencies from each party would come into that offspring. If science confirms that, then the same must be true when it comes to this transference between married couples. I know and believe it because there's a reason in God's foresight that he said that sex is not until you get married. Because young people, when people engage in it, or when they become what we call promiscuous, where they are, as you say, testing the waters before they settle down, what you are actually doing is, how to say, subtracting from yourself. Because you have now transferred some of your tendencies. People laugh when I say couples look alike after years. I even think people who own the same vehicle after a time the car starts to look like them. I told him that the other day, the vehicle starts to resemble the owner. Married couples start to look alike, they start to act alike, because these tendencies have been transferred through that same marriage act that you have identified. So the same is true when people are promiscuous or when people are quote-unquote testing the waters. You are actually sharing, transferring tendencies from yourself, taking away from your future spouse. And people don't like to hear it because it's not popular. But Christ didn't come on this earth to be popular. He came to be impactful. And that is what every Christian's duty should be. We should not be seeking to be popular, because our popularity will be in heaven when the whole unfallen universe, besides this minute earth, we will get our popularity then. So I believe that the physicality, the marriage act, transfers these genetical and biological components that we cannot really define, but we can believe it.
But you know, I want to throw this on you as well, probably Elder Kern. In the presentation on the sanctuary, we see a walkthrough. So being the high priest cannot leave.
No comment.
Cannot leave. And I really want a response from this as young people. And I know that you all are in love. He could not have left the courtyard. And the courtyard, I mean, leave outside of his home and bypass all the golden, the brazen laver, the altar of burnt in sacrifice, and then come into the living room, which is your trysting place, the place where you make engagements for the marriage act. How to ask this without becoming sensual on set here? In your experience, and help the young people out there and the older ones alike, do you find that you get the best intimacy when that course is followed, as opposed to just jumping from outside straight into the most holy place? The walk through, you sit down and you talk, you discover things about yourself during the day, you make confessions and so on. So you find that the marriage act is now a giving of yourself. I'm not sure if I'm answering your question at the same point.
No, I think I understand what you're asking. And it must be an emphatic yes. You really get the best out of it, because, you know, women especially, they have that most holy place experience. But as a priest, you have to make your way to there.
All right.
So you really can't jump from the courtyard and just suddenly find yourself, you know, in the most holy place. In fact, in the sanctuary service, you even had special days. Take for instance, at the Day of Atonement.
One day a year.
Right? Which was really a special day.
Praise God.
And you know, it was
But
like
it was
an anniversary.
Yeah.
It was like an anniversary every year. It was a special appointment. So there is that walkthrough, and we must be able, and this is not being sensual, because you see, God is the maker of what we call sex, and we must be able to speak, you know, to that in the spirit of candor.
Yeah.
Of course, we must be reasonable about it. At the same time, we must be educated about it, because, mind you, we're dealing with our children and our young people. If we do not teach them, the world will, and they will go rushing into things and get tied up and not up in some of the things that Sister Nella just spoke about. They're sharing a part of them that they cannot now reclaim from someone who is not even in their life. You know, so yes, a resounding yes. You really get the best out of the experience when you really pass from the altar of sacrifice and wash at the laver, and you make all these steps. You get the best. There is that level of intimacy. Yes.
It's true that the topic could be rather sensitive to the ill-advised mind. You know, I haven't been biblically concreted in the parallel that you're drawing yet, because I'm studying it and I'm going into it. But I can comment on the concept, because it's a factual concept of this 0 to 100 mentality that most men have. And love, I'm just saying, this 0 to 100 mentality that men have, only those who have understood that a man's brain is very different to a woman's brain. We are attentive to detail because that's who we are. A man sees material and he sees a structure. We see every screw and where it should go. We see every paint stroke. We see everything and we say, not that way, I want it this way. And the man in his mind, what you keeping me back? I already know where I'm going. But the truth is this: you don't know where you're going. You don't know where you're going, because it's for women biologically. I'm not speaking from individuals' experience, because each couple, you have your little knickknacks that will, you know, enhance your experience. But from a biological perspective, there is a step-by-step process when it comes to reaching the final destination in that aspect. That is just how our bodies are made up. We are pressure cookers while they are just over-exaggerated boilers. We are pressure cookers. That heat must build, the experience must be there, the emotion must be there. When a woman is not emotionally connected, Lord have mercy on the man. Because he might think he's getting something, but he's not. And this is...
Say it again. Repeat for emphasis. You see, you let that one slip by so quickly. You need to say it again so that our audience could get it. Go ahead. They go ahead.
So when men rush past this step-by-step process and they think that they are getting something, they are not. Right? Listen, we have intelligent people viewing here, and we have beautiful young couples, you know, and we have a lot of examples. I'm grateful for the variety that we have, not only in Reformation but in the wider field, because we all know what we're talking about. So there's no need to read and spell, Sister Candy, Sister Jediah, all my good friends. But the truth is this: when emotional connections are not established by, as we say, communication, as we say, the whole concept of knowing that you have each other's back, whenever a minister or a husband doesn't feel like his wife is supporting him, he will just pass the time. And for a woman, we are so skillful. We can disconnect like that. Like that. So therefore, the whole process, it's no surprise that God has implemented these steps. But when you see the progression through the sanctuary, then you can appreciate the atonement, because you saw what it took to reach there.
So therefore, and this is a final question on this point.
I hope so. On this point.
On this point, and because we have to wrap up anyway. Now, the high priest, Elder Kern, it is described in our time as the morning after the night before. So the high priest would leave his most holy place experience after he would have felt his way through a cloud of smoke. There was no rush.
Yes.
But after he came out, he blessed the people. And how I symbolize that as with the sexual union, with that union that happens, however often, it is always an item. So that you are now better equipped to face some of the challenges at Truth for Today Ministries.
Here we go.
His experience is very different.
So is there a truism in that if
1000%.
all the steps are perfect,
1000%.
1000%?
Listen, the answer is given in scripture. If a man does not know how to take care of his home, he cannot take care of the church of God. And these things that we are talking about, while it may, to the unlearned or to the mind that is warped, it may just be, sensuality. It has so much truth and power in it that we cannot afford to miss it, because the first person that you really want to bless is your wife, because it makes, in the face of all the challenges that life can throw at you, this is your partner, your friend, so that even after that intercourse, if you may, there's a feeling of happiness that everything will be all right, even though there are problems. Because when you really check this thing out, the Jews, the Israelites, had that ceremony day after day, and yet people were just bringing their animals every day. You could imagine how that priest felt. He was taxed. He was burdened, because the workload was very heavy. But passing through the right procedure and seeing God work it out, I dare to say, even on this program, that sanctuary model, as you would have used it and transferred that to intimacy, marriage, sex, and the sanctuary, has so much truth in it. Yeah. Has so much truth in it.
Yes.
That it shows a side of God. God has covered intimacy when people shun at it. He has covered that even in the sanctuary. When we quote "Thy way, O God, is in the sanctuary," we cannot afford to leave that out. As though God has left out that, as though it's something that is vile, it is something that is dirty.
Angels blush their faces.
As though angels don't even attend that room and so forth. Listen, in the most holy place there were angels. There were angels there, so that even when the Shekinah glory bloomed, the angels were there present. They didn't leave. So we cannot afford to really leave these things out. It's a sad, sad truth. It's a sad thing that we do if we should leave these truths out of the whole equation.
Praise the Lord. I just want the brethren in the studio to put up my screen. I'm just going to finish with this here. And we may just have a short time to comment on it. One elder said, an elder that we know together, he said, change the men, change the men and change the world. You agree with that concept? Change the men and change the world. So let me just show you this slide. Here what I'm going to say, all right? So look at this lady here in the supermarket trying to navigate with all her children. Where's the man? The man is not there, struggling to keep them. You know how children can be in a grocery store. All right? If you look at this one here now, wife is in the grocery. That's a popular one. Wife is in the grocery. Where is husband? Trying to catch up on the news. He's not going to take part. So all these things are important. Right? What about this now? At the PTA meeting,
true.
Women.
Very true. Very true.
Women. What about this? A woman trying to navigate now across all children lined up one after the next. Let's go, troops. But it is difficult. You know, we may look at this as a simple exercise, but come to a stoplight, a four-lane crossway, and you have 3 children to hold. Husband is not yet, at least give you that type of, Yeah, together with you here. Don't worry. I have Betty, I have Jane, and you have that one. Yeah? And then home lesson time. Who helps son? Mother again. So this is why I believe that there's a truism in the concept. Change the men and change the world. We're going to end on that note, and I just want to mention that Sister Marlene's husband is viewing, brother. His name is Devon. Welcome at the same time.
Praise God.
But change the men and change the world. My wife tells me that all the time because she holds that concept. Even though it's a broad parameter, because there are other concepts and other things, factors that need to be added. But I think there's an absenteeism of men.
I don't consider myself an expert in family matters, but I do study God's word to prevent situations and also to encourage me to endure some of the things that we know will come to pass. Because as I always say, when we accept God, He doesn't give us a bed of roses, but He gives us grace to endure the thorns and the pickers and the stone. And marriage is one of the most turbulent storms anyone will ever experience. But within that storm, the peace that could exist, the joy, the emotional connection that could exist is so powerful. It makes the storm look like nothing.
Yeah.
But
Smile at the storm.
this point that you were sharing here with the husband and wife, this goes back to the same point I was mentioning before about the reversing of God's order. This LGBT agenda, which is the latest, but it still stems from the same concept where equality is what they're striving for. All of us must be on the same level. That is what they have done with families as well. My husband mentioned earlier that women are climbing the corporate ladder. But when they do that, during that transition, you see them go from long luscious hair to short boy cuts. You see them go from dresses and skirts to pants and thick shoulder pads. Eventually, they start to look very masculine in that climb. It's very, very rare you would see women at the top of the corporate ladder looking like women. They often, even on a political scale, anytime you see women at the helm, they're very, very somewhat masculine in their look, masculine in their disposition. Because why? You have now risen to a stage where it's a man's natural place to function. So you know, so I agree with the sister's point on women, the man needing to change, but the mindset cannot change with us looking for this perfect man. It must come by our experience, because what we put forth most of the times, these boys are acting like what they think women want. But I often tell them, no, girls want you, women don't. So people need to stop living in this idea of being perceived. So these men are perceived as something when in reality they are not. So if these mindsets change, so the connection can exist. And we will have men and women functioning where they should.
So it's a whole mindset change.
Of course.
Yeah.
You know, Elakisto, let's try to bring some balance to that statement. Change in men and you will change. It has truth in that. But I want to submit also that a woman could help in making a man into what he really should be. Yeah. There was a reason why God said it is not good for the man to be alone. Adam was only good a man when he had an Eve by his side. And that is still true today. Now, that is not saying, because we spoke about singleness, that doesn't mean that a man who decides to stay single, that he's not a real man because he doesn't have a wife. No. In the correct context, we must find this. I don't really think you will find a perfect man. That man really doesn't exist.
So wait.
Right?
So do you think there are still women looking for the perfect man?
Yes.
Okay, so go ahead.
There are women still looking for the perfect man, and I think they are reserving themselves because I see my wife looking at me. You know, there are women who are still looking for the perfect man, and that is simply born from the idea because they have a level of self-worth that they are not willing to give a man who she in her mind thinks he doesn't deserve somebody like me. Now that has its ins and its outs. to it, but let me empower the sisters a bit. Women are like propellers to a ship. That ship isn't going anywhere unless that propeller moves. So the quicker our sisters start to really get moving, men could respond to that. Women have a power. Listen, let's not forget that apart from Adam being the head, the corporate head of humanity, it was really the act of Eve that really brought the world into shambles. So that we must understand. We must understand.
Representative
we must understand that behind a woman there is a power that can really move a man. Really move a man. I know this because I am married to a woman. And sometimes, Elder Kisto, even, and I'm not even ashamed to confess, because as men, we do not always confess when we go wrong. We are egotistic and we think we are always right because we are men. And sometimes my wife has to put a check on me and say, you know, Kern, you didn't do this right. And it doesn't sound good all the time. But I see that as the pruning.
But most times we're right.
And making me into the perfect man that she wants.
And you are willing to submit to that?
Of course.
So there's a level of submission even in
yes, because and that is love. So that we have to view submission as love.
Okay.
It is love. So, you know, change the men and you change the world. Yes, that has true, because we cannot deny that men have negated their position as men. They are not really standing at their post.
Man.
Yeah. Not really standing at their post of duty. And that's sad, because Satan knows that a well-organized family will really put a dent in his kingdom.
That's right. So you know, I understand that somebody's asking for a part 2 of this, and probably we may have to do it based upon you know, a lot of factors. But this is where we have to wrap it up. I know that it's already 9:15 here in Trinidad, late by any stretch of the imagination, but we are not at all tired. But there's so much you could bear in one sitting, so we would really have to consider from a studio standpoint, from a production standpoint, if we could really do a part 2. So we want to take a break. You need to take a break just to catch ourselves, but we want to come back and talk to the board and all the beautiful comments that we are seeing there already, and we want to thank you for staying with us. So this is the Loud Cry Surge. Yes, and Julian Bear, we just want to, out of the UK, we want to acknowledge you before we take the break. But we're coming back, we're going to talk to everybody there. And if there are any questions or comments, we will also talk to that. So we have Elder Kern, Pastor Kern Charles, and his darling wife, Onella Charles, who really blessed the world tonight. And stay with us 1 minute. We're going to come back. Loud Cry Surge, live the experience. Michelle's sister. Yeah. Praise the Lord. Welcome back to the Loud Cry Search. Thanks so much for staying with us. And based on the comments that we have and those who are still on, I think we may really have to consider part 2. We are looking at some variables as well, some of our brethren and others who could come on set at different segments. We will put it together and talk to different things. We have, I got some good ideas of camera that I think are beautiful. But I just want to read the board and you want to help us read some. So let's start from the bottom up. I'm seeing a George Prince, I'm not sure who that is, but welcome George and all the regular people. You want to read them through. Let me just speak to Kerry. I saw Kerry from New York. I think she fellowships with, but I'm not sure. So let me not say that. I was not thinking about Verla Sunday, but I'm not sure. So Kerry, I'm not sure. But yeah, so we can start scrolling and we can go through the board. Kun and Onala, you could take that privilege.
Well,
You just read in the comments?
That's
So-
welcome the regular people.
Okay.
I see Sister Candy as usual, of course. Happy Sabbath to you, Sister Candy Malika. Good to see Sister Malika online, listening in on the program. Sister Marlene in Jamaica. God bless you,
That's my
sister.
girl.
Don't worry, we'll see you soon, Sister Marlene.
Yes, man. Yes, sir.
See you
Yes, sir.
soon. We'll talk more to that. Now they want to help me.
I'm seeing Lilith Lindsay. She says happy Sabbath. Also, we send our greetings to you, Sister Evelyn Nelson. That's from Barbados,
She's from, that is Troy's mother-in-law.
Guyana.
Yes, but she's in
Okay.
New York now.
She's
All
in-
right. Okay.
All right, my
Shonda's
good
mother.
friend Jediah Bartholomew, preach, Nella, preach, on behalf of the fold, yes.
I just want to recommend Kenrick, yeah, he's from
Kenrick
Valencia.
Bernard, also blessings. Well, we thank God that it is informative. We know that it's exhaustive, and what we try to cram into this session is just as much as could be a blessing for today. And we will get manna for another day. We have a Carol Clemenston. She's also watching with us.
Clemenston.
Sister Marlene, you're taking over the board. There you go, praise the Lord.
Oh yeah, Sister Marlene, I see your husband is
Is
watching
watching
with
with
you.
you.
Oh yes,
That's
man.
a blessing.
That's the way it ought to be.
Amen.
That's the way
Amen.
it ought to be,
Amen.
man.
Praise
your
God.
husband dear with you thick and thin. That's the way it ought to be. God bless you, sir.
Oh,
And
look,
I
my
hope
girl
to
Avalon,
see you.
Sister Avalon, Agad, Emmanuel, welcome. And she also invited some people, so God bless all those who Sister Avalon would have invited to the program this evening. Share, like, and invite someone to view it at another time. You can even also see it after this live cast.
I'm seeing as well Carol Clemenston was invited by Marlene and she was
Yes,
really happy.
that's
Alright.
Happy to be here.
Yes, yes.
Praise the Lord.
We have some evangelists on the move this evening. They're
Praise the
sharing
Lord.
and inviting.
You know, this topic is really a sensitive,
Yeah.
but one that really meets the heart.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I mean, everybody is involved in our family, and you know, we cannot exhaust this. So I must agree, we just might have to have
That's right.
another part of this. I agree with you,
Yeah.
Jerry. I agree with you.
So Julian Bear is from the UK. That's one of Melissa Godchild Carter.
All right.
Friends.
Okay. Right.
Right, so
Some
nice
Melissa.
having you, my dear brother. Happy Sabbath to you. I know you are 4 hours ahead of us, or probably 5, and you're still online. That's
Wow.
that's a blessing
Yes. Praise
to
God.
have
What
you
a
as
sacrifice.
well.
So part 2 is inevitable, Pastor.
Yeah, we can't get away from it.
Oh.
Gwendolyn Silly, I'm not sure who you are, but nice having you on board as well. Hello, special hello to you too. Franklin.
Deanne Prescott,
Yeah.
Michelle Gilbert.
Oh, I
Yeah,
haven't seen
Sister
Sister
Diane.
Diane in some time, and Sister Diane, I hope you are fine.
Right, so and Carol as well, I'm told from my production team that you could go back to our archives or even on YouTube
Yes.
and run back over the video. It will be a blessing to you as well.
So I'm gathering that Sister Carol
Adrian
Clint,
That's
son,
Kendall.
Kendall is online. Praise the Lord. I'm seeing a Brent
Enjoying the topic tonight. That's right.
Nice having you on board, Brent.
It's good to have some engaged members.
Yeah.
People who are, because the engagement stage is a critical one.
A critical stage.
Critical
We talked to that
one.
as well.
And like I said, brethren, marriage is not something to fear. If we understand what it was created for and what it actually demonstrates, we will be so happy and so privileged to be chosen to be a part of such a union.
Should we welcome Sister Diane as well, from the Wallafield area. Nice having you on board, Sister Diane. Beautiful sister indeed.
Amen.
Nice having you on board. And so all the regular people, we want to say thank God for you. You make the program a success. I want to thank God again for Elder and Sister Charles for gracing us with your presence. We're not sure it will be back here. Very busy people, young and very busy. But we will try to hold them. So you have a whole world looking on. So you probably have to keep that
You
engagement.
bring on a few more couples.
A few
man.
more couples.
Expand the horizon.
Yeah. So we have a question coming through from YouTube, so we would hold for that. We're supposed to get it up in a minute or two. Okay, so Edith, Sister Edith. Oh, Barbara Henry Phillips.
Right.
That's Sister Barbara.
Yes,
Happy
Sister
Sabbath to
Barbara.
my Loud Cry team. I enjoyed this program very much this evening. Really grateful. Praise the Lord, Sister Barbara. So, you have the question there for me?
I think Sister Melissa is the one
Asking
posing
the question.
the
Okay.
question. Is it normal, even
Uh-huh.
in Christian marriages, for one to love the other more than the other loves them? Or are they both supposed to love each other on the same? You know, like it's
If that scale is
You
on
know,
sale, I would like to buy one.
you know, how can we measure God's love?
You can't measure it.
You
You see,
know,
and we have to use Christ as the example.
Yes,
It's all for the other.
That's right.
And even in the sexual engagement, your idea is not so much to be pleased, but to please.
That's correct.
And then in
Amen.
doing that, you get the highest fulfillment.
I remember being 17 years old and hearing that exact phrase from you, all for the other
All
love.
for the
And that immediately, it sends your mind in a particular place. Because to answer the question directly, Sister Melissa, I think for any one of us, especially women, we will be curious enough to find out if there were such a scale. But that scale is Jesus.
Truly
So therefore, you love Christ. You know, you're a perfect diaphragm. You love Christ, I love Christ. Then there is no measure to the love that we will have
That's right.
to each other. Because there's an equal measure of God's love extended to each and every
That's
one of
right.
us individually.
That's
And even more potent in a marriage.
Amen. I just heard that Sister Julie Grant, she is from South Florida.
All right.
Nice having you with us. She goes to the congregation with Elder Ken.
Praise God.
Beautiful. Nice having you on board. Adrian Philip, Brother Kendall says, nice choice of words, Nella. what a bit set, anyway. All right. So I think that's it, you know. Any final thoughts as we seek to wrap up? It has been a beautiful experience. I really want to thank you very much for coming. And you're always welcome. Yeah.
Happy to be here. The topic of marriage, the topic of families, because marriages, as Brother Kern said earlier on, he slipped it in. Adam and Eve was a family even before they had children. So the whole concept of family was immediately instituted in the Garden of Eden. And the more you study what our little family is supposed to be a representation, it's supposed to be a little heaven on earth, a little Garden of Eden.
Yep.
Is what the family unit is supposed to. The experience that exists between the Godhead is manifested through the love and union seen in the marriage.
Amen.
So my exhortation would be to all those contemplating it, study Adventist Home, Child Guidance, Messages to Young People. These books are there, and there's counsels on sexual behavior, there's letters to young lovers.
Yep.
So much information, brethren. Don't take it for granted. God has seen the questions that we would ask and has provided the answers
Amen.
to give us
Amen.
an advantage.
Amen.
So
Amen.
welcome it and look forward to it, and make sure that you build a marriage unit, a family unit that can be effective in ministry.
Amen. Praise God.
Well, you know, like so, because we really can't exhaust this, I would simply advise that our viewers keep viewing the Loud Cry Surge.
Yes.
You know, we are not afraid to really get involved in these hot topics,
Yes.
because even if I say something, we still can't exhaust, this thing.
Yeah.
It's so much. It's so much. So
It was a pleasure to
we would love to
Yeah.
get in contact
Yes.
with even some of those
Oh
people
yes, oh yes.
there. Get in contact with us. You have all our contacts and what have you, so that we could further discuss and, you know, if needs be, counsel with and share with each other and what have you. So God bless you all.
Yeah.
Any last
And,
questions? This will be the last time.
What I want to do is I saw somebody there, Sister Foster, affectionately called Ma'am, at Tower of Power. We want to welcome you. I'm not sure if you just joined, but nice seeing you on board. Colin is saying,
It's good even to see Lisha. I'm seeing Lisha.
yeah,
wow.
okay. Colin is saying happy Sabbath.
Also a
and
young newlywed couple.
Yeah.
Lisha
Yeah.
Timothy,
Lisha
aka
and
Dwarka.
Timothy.
Welcome, Lisha.
Right. Somebody was saying something again. But that one remind me. All right. Books available. We have, of course, Christ Public Lesson. That's our new book of the month.
Yes.
We still have copies of Great Controversy. But you have to be local, of course, to get it. So our local congregations and peoples, we have those 2 books available. Just give us a shout on all the platforms that are available, and we promise we might even deliver it to your door. Only the Loud Christ Church does that. So brethren, have a happy Sabbath at your congregation. Greet the brethren there for us. And from all of us here in studio, we want to say a happy Sabbath to you. A good night. Mungu akubariki, which is
The
God bless
Kenyan
you.
is speaking.
Have a good night.
I envy you not. God bless.
Silent Sabbath to all.
Yeah.
In Christ alone, my hope is found. He is my light, my strength, my song. This cornerstone, this solid ground, firm through the fiercest drought and storm. What heights of love